Welcome to On the Firing Line on the information station, AM 1440 KUHL. Information, education, news, and politics of firearms and ammunition is found here. If you have any questions, call us at 1-888-625-1440. That's 1-888-625-1440.
Nice. 63-year-old Elsie Pipkins was at home in Shreveport, Louisiana, when an intruder armed with a shotgun forced his way inside the house. Once inside, the intruder ordered Pipkins' granddaughter to fill a bag with valuables. While Pipkins begged the criminal to leave with the money in her purse, Pipkins eventually led the intruder to a safe where she keeps some change and a handgun. Pipkins ordered the safe, opened the safe, and offered the change to the intruder, at which point the criminal took a hand off his shotgun, giving Pipkins an opportunity to retrieve the pistol from the safe and fire it at the robber. The home invader was struck once in the chest and fled before collapsing a block away from Pipkins' home. Following the shooting, Pipkins made clear she did not relish shooting the criminal, stating to a local news outlet, just $55 in coins, and he lost his life. Lord Jesus, I wish the young people today would just think, go to school, get an education and a good job, and buy what they want. Don't try to take from someone who has worked all their life and still doesn't have nothing to give. This from the Shreveport Times, Shreveport, Louisiana, January 6, 2014.
You are on the firing line with Matt and Joe. Be a part of today's show by calling in at 1-888-625-1440, or if you're in the local Santa Maria area, give us a call at 928-1440. Well, that was a pretty good Second Amendment encounter there. A couple, I kind of like, well, I don't really like, but it was neat how she kind of lured him to the safe, it almost seemed like. Oh, here, sure, I'll show you the safe.
I've got candy. You want some candy?
Yeah. But it happens. It's, again, another perfect example of somebody preying on an elderly person who they perceive as the weaker person. But, again, they had the equalizer, so if they didn't have that equalizer, like we always say, it would have been very different.
And those of you out there who have said that weak people will have their guns taken away from them and used against them.
Yep.
This is a clear case of exactly the opposite of that.
Right, exactly. And, a couple things, Miss Pipkins here, she's kind of had a moral of the story. Don't try to take from someone who's worked all their life and still doesn't have...
I like that moral.
Yeah, she kind of was like, it was like a learning experience for her, and she tried to pass that on to others, it seemed like.
A life for $55.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, there's really nothing to say positive about it. That's for sure.
What's worse is if he would have been caught too. He would have been in prison too. No matter there was no upside. To this.
Yeah, he would have gotten shot, and had he lived, or if he died. He died. Had he lived, he'd have also had to serve time.
Yeah.
For $55.
Are we sure he died?
Well,
yeah, it said that he collapsed.
Collapsed a block away. But
it says just $55 in coins, and he lost his
life.
life.
Okay, I got it. And that was kind of another thing. The home invader was struck once in the chest and fled and got a block away before he collapsed. That's adrenaline, folks. You see in the movies, pow, one to the chest, and the guy falls down, blows over, and a thing of sparks.
Not always going to happen that way.
Right, because your adrenaline is, I think, 60 to 80 times more powerful than pure morphine. So once your adrenaline gets pumping, I mean, it's pretty easy to run a block, I would imagine, when you have that much adrenaline running through your body. It's just then the adrenaline dumps, and fortunately in this case, it was a bad guy.
Yeah.
But that's just a good example of how your body works. Your body's very strong.
This kind of leads on to today's show. Why we have the Second Amendment in self-protection and protection against government and stuff like that. And we're going to read into some of that stuff today, based upon the opinions of why our forefathers wrote these things and what they were thinking in the terminology of that time period. And hopefully we can get out some good information today, because as usual, we try to present everything so that people get an idea so they can decide for themselves.
Right. And of course, we're a little one-sided over here, but we still try and present it in a manner where we're not making a decision for you. We just want to give you the facts, and then, or at least maybe even two sides of the facts, and then you make your own opinion on your decision. But, of course we want you to kind of decide in a in one direction.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something that I was thinking about you guys yesterday that I seen that did you hear what happened to Governor Christie?
I've heard a little bit about it. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, that's unusual that you did, because it was on every single network the other night. Every single network ran it. Everyone ran it. CNN, Fox, ABC, NBC, everything ran it. Everybody. Okay? So back in the summer, do you remember the IRS thing?
Yeah.
Okay. The IRS thing, which they were doing, which was, they did a horrible thing to people.
Right.
They basically took people's rights away.
If you were Republican, we're going to treat you completely differently. Yes.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Okay. The press coverage for a traffic jam that was caused by a subordinate of Christie's got 16 times the amount of press than the IRS did. In the whole IRS thing. So you guys speaking today about what's going on in your lives and how you guys are trying to get out there. There's 16 times as many people trying to say no.
So what you're saying is we'll be buried, and that will be front news tonight.
Right.
Because this is much more important, and this is certainly what they don't want people to hear, because it might lean people towards a different ideal.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you could get them thinking for themselves. Don't do that.
Oh, heaven forbid, it's guns. Guns. Well, they're going to have guns. It's got to be an evil thing, because
it has to be.
Well, like we've been saying ever since I've been on this show, it's almost 3 years now that I've joined the show. This is a right.
Yeah.
This isn't something that is a privilege. This is a right. It's a guaranteed right in our Constitution. We're not talking about
given to us for a reason.
Right.
Unlike many other countries out there in this world, actually, unlike any other country in this world,
yep, exactly.
Gun rights were given to us for a very unique and different reason, and it's up to us, not the government, to control that right.
Yep.
And to exercise it.
And just because times change, things change. The way that they worded it, like we've said before, I mean, it's kind of timeless. They talk the way they talked back when they wrote it, or in the words, excuse me, but it still means the same thing when you get down to the backbone of it.
Absolutely. It's kind of funny that you mentioned that with Christie and in correlation with today's show. Think of this in a different aspect. We've been taught lately by all these different things that, hey, guns are evil, and we need to ban guns. We need to do this.
For public safety.
Yeah, and for public safety. But guns are the bad trip here, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Well, here in California, the Democrats have decided that it's not the gun, it's the gasoline that feeds the gun. The ammunition.
That's a way to attack it.
It certainly is. Sacramento, following passage last year of some of the strongest gun control laws in the nation in the wake of the school shooting in Newton, Connecticut, leading California Democrats will open a new front in the fight against gun violence this year with a proposal to conduct background checks on people who purchase ammunition. Can you imagine that?
No, if you're buying ammunition, you have a gun, you've already gone through a background check to get the gun. Is it really necessary? No, I don't think it's necessary at all, but it seems like it's another thing. Are they going to make more money off of this, or are they just trying to inconvenience the people?
They're trying to take an attack on the firearm that they couldn't take by going directly at it, so now they're going to go through the back door.
Gotcha. Okay.
And check this out. Maybe they do want to make some extra money, because the state Senate Democrats are going to push to require a comprehensive background check on anyone seeking to purchase ammunition, and to require a 1-year permit for ammunition purchases.
Oh my
and
gosh.
You can guarantee they're going to charge for that permit.
Yes, you're going to have to get permitted every year to do this.
Oh my goodness. I wonder if you'll have to get like a rifle permit and a handgun permit, and a shotgun permit.
Ammunition. They're going to do caliber permits.
You have to
get a permit to buy 9mm, another permit for 45,
another
for 40.
One for 223s.
Another one for hunting certain. Never mind.
Yeah, stop giving them ideas.
Yeah. Anybody can walk into a gun store, a bait and tackle store, and purchase all the ammunition they want to, no questions asked. Senator DeLeon, a Democrat, the bill's lead sponsor, said in an interview, the ammunition is the fuel that feeds violence. The gun itself, the handgun or the long gun or the high-powered weapon is just a delivery device.
Oh, my God.
The gas, the fuel, is the ammunition, and no one knows who buys it.
They've literally replaced the word gun from last year with ammunition this year.
That's exactly my point.
That's all they've done. Yeah.
Well, DeLeon is married to Lee, isn't he? Senator Yee.
Send them both flowers.
They're both married, aren't they?
And pizza.
That's cute. It would make
Wow.
We're
sense.
going to send them flowers and pizza for their anniversary.
Oh
Dude,
my
I want
God.
pizza. They don't get it.
You know, it's kind of funny here. No other state has gone as far to regulate ammunition purchases, De Leon said, through gun control advocates in other state legislatures, including New York, and they have expressed interest in copying the proposal. But you know what's really interesting is, let's go past this. Kentucky, Texas, California, and one other state are the top selling states for ammunition.
Yeah, top
And-
4 selling
and
states.
Jim was just saying that New York, he thinks, was one of them as well. Think of this, but put it in perspective here in California, okay? Texas, hey, I understand, lots of guns sold there. Kentucky, 2 million guns sold there. I understand that. They're much more open and conservative, shall we say. In California, we have some of the most restrictive gun laws, and they ban the sale because companies won't submit their guns.
Yep.
And here in California, and yet we've still got one of the highest
that is
amount of guns sold in the state of California.
That is kind of a crazy point with all the bans on, the handgun safety roster and the guns that aren't, quote, California legal, even though they're nothing different. We literally probably have half the amount of opportunities to buy weapons as other states.
Right.
And we're still, in the top 4 largest.
Now, this can be perceived as in two different ways. Number one, they can perceive this as, hey, the states made laws, great, and people can still buy guns. It's still a free-flowing society for firearms within the state of
Looks
California.
like they met in the middle.
Yeah. Or it can be perceived as the people are rising up and saying, you cannot stop us from having firearms.
Yep.
We will have them. If you circumvent them, that's okay. We're still going to get what we need to be able to protect
Yep.
ourselves. We have that right. It's a constitutional right, and how dare you stamp on it?
And that
Let this
sounds-
be an example against you.
Yes, that sounds like it to me, because that's what would get the politicians kind of in a panic. Oh no, we got to do something. Let's do ammunition. It's kind of like a panic thing because it doesn't make any sense again.
I hope these guys get voted out just like
Well, I
Colorado.
was just thinking about that. That probably will happen to them because they're not concentrating on getting jobs into California.
No
they're
restrictions
not.
mean less jobs.
Yeah.
Well, can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine the restrictions that they're putting on other people? We're just talking about guns, and we've talked about this before, Joe. Where if what did we do? We had 16 that day. It's been about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Maybe it was before Christmas. We had like 16 laws that were coming in, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That was just gun laws.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. I mean, you don't think about all the
other things that are restricting
hundreds
the
of
people
laws.
out there that they're not even paying attention of.
Yep.
And giving rights to
Yeah.
unbelievable things that are not the way or the want of the majority of people.
Yep.
Well, no,
And
I said,
granted,
once
I
you get
guess
this-
we are a
We are-
republic, and it is up to the government to make their rules because we voted them in.
Mm-hmm.
But
Don't count me in that. A lot of those people I did not vote for. Would
And that's
I not ever?
I mean, that's true. I mean, but so many people say that, and I know we didn't, but who did vote these people? And with
Well,
everybody
people who
saying
just
I
wanted-
didn't do it,
They grew up like me. I grew up being a Democrat, so I thought I was a Democrat.
so you thought you would just
Until 1988, when I actually read the platform and read what it said on there, I go, I'm not for any of this stuff. And they said, well, if you're voting
Reagan's
to
not
Democrat,
looking
this
so
is the way you
bad.
vote. And I said, no, I don't believe in this stuff.
Yep.
And so I stopped. I want to really go independent. Is really what I want to do.
libertarian.
No, independent, just like
I
you know,
like the idea of independent. I do, even
too.
though they have some far out
Yeah, they do. Got some wild
tinfoil
stuff.
hat ideas.
Yeah.
There are still some.
But they're not restricted to your personal issues.
More or
They're not-
less.
They're not really restrictive to your personal issues. They don't go. They're like libertarians. They like the marijuana thing. And
civil
they like
liberty. It's more for the person.
Yeah, it's more. They're more for your rights.
Yes.
Your personal rights is what they're for.
Which is what the republic was supposed to be about. That's how it was created and designed by our forefathers.
right.
If you want to be a kook, you can be a kook. If you want to be this, you can be that. If you want
Yeah,
to be
more
a great
power to you.
superhero, the more power to you. Yes, and yeah, they do say if you want to smoke dope in your own house, go ahead.
Yeah.
And if you want to keep a gun in your house, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean,
Right, they are.
everybody has their own personal decisions, which I feel you should be free to make those decisions. I mean, if you want to do those things, go ahead and do those things. Just
we
as long
gotta-
as you're not bothering anybody else
Right.
or hurting anybody else, then who cares?
But you got to remember that now that there is a super majority in both houses of our state government
Right.
and the whole legislature is nothing but one party.
Yeah.
They can do anything they want to.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, if they decide, that hey, they want naked statues in your town, they're going to put naked statues in your town because they can vote for it.
Yeah, In God We Trust gets switched out for naked statues.
They will get vandalized.
Rome is back.
Oh, God.
Right. It's going to be like
And it was built in one day.
Wow.
Very
Okay.
clever. That was clever.
Take it away, Joe.
You know what? It is said our work's not done there. Steinberg, who's a Democrat, he's also a senator here in California. Again, he says, our work's not done there, Steinberg says. We want to distinguish in this state guns that are legally owned for sport, for recreation, and for self-defense and safety, versus guns and rifles that allow hundreds of bullets to be fired within seconds.
God.
That can indiscriminately injure or kill people who have no use in the sport, recreation, or self-defense categories. This guy does not get it. And hopefully today, after today's show, with what we get into with our constitutional Second Amendment, and some of the ideas behind of how that was created and what it actually means, if he's listening, maybe he'll get an idea and get a point of what it's really for.
Well,
because this guy does not get it.
I mean, he says we want to distinguish in this state guns that are legally owned for sport, recreation, and self-defense. To me, that covers all guns.
It does. You're
Sport,
absolutely right.
recreation, or self-defense. If it's not for one of those three, then what is it? Antique, a collector's item?
Self-defense can mean a lot of things, whether it's your home, your state, or your country.
Whether you're a soldier on a battlefield with a rifle defending your life, or you're in your house defending yourself from an armed robbery, it's self-defense either way you shake it.
Right.
So he's saying, okay, we gotta figure out what's for self-defense, and then the only other thing he says, or guns that shoot hundreds of rounds a second.
Think about this. If you're on a battlefield, we go to take a specific area, right?
Yeah.
The guns we use, do we use that to kill the enemy that's on that area, or do we go there to take the area, and if the enemy fires on us, we protect ourselves?
And it's especially America's armies. We generally cannot shoot unless shot at.
Think about that. That's the perspective people need to stop and think of when we're dealing with ideas of war.
Yeah.
We're not going out there just to kill somebody. We're going out there, and if they shoot at us while we're taking this spot to make sure that it's a safe zone,
to
we
defend
will
ourselves.
fire back.
Yeah.
That's defense.
Exactly. So self-defense, whether it's in your house or over on a foreign battlefield, to me, it boils down to the same thing.
Sure changes the perspective of assault, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
All right, we'll be right back with you on the firing line to talk more about your Second Amendment.
We'll be back to more of On the Firing Line with Joe and Jim after this.
This is On the Firing Line with Matt, Jim, and Joe. We'll be right back with you on the firing line. If you have any questions, give us a call at 888-625-1440 or in the Santa Maria area, 928-1440. Don't forget, you can always listen in on am1440.com.
Tactical Guns and Gear is the Central Coast leader in tactical rifles, pistols, shotguns, and accessories. Building an AR-15, they have lower receivers, parts kits, trigger groups, and a ton of other AR parts from the most popular companies and stuff.
They are also the home of the Women's 101 Firearms and Women's Advanced Pistol classes and have trained thousands of local ladies.
The store is located off the 101 freeway in Santa Maria near the North Broadway exit. Look for the big rifle sign on the freeway as well as the giant 5-ton Tactical military truck, and they're now open on Mondays. America!
On the Firing Line is happy to have Law Offices of Christopher Coleman as a sponsor. The Law Offices of Christopher Coleman is located in Santa Barbara on 2019B State Street, specializing in personal injury and, more importantly, the Second Amendment and On the Firing Line with Matt and Joe. Give them a call at 805-682-3352, serving the Santa Barbara, Santa Maria, and San Luis Obispo areas for over 25 years.
Now a great word from Santa Maria Motorcycles, formerly Santa Maria Harley-Davidson, located at 2022 Presker Lane. They are dealers for Honda, Kawasaki, and Harley-Davidson. Grab your family and go see the museum, filled with exciting older bikes that you won't see anywhere else on the Central Coast. As well, they are the #1 motorcycle dealer on the Central Coast with the largest inventory around. Go in and see Martin Buchanan, or you can give him a call at 805-928-3668. You can also go visit them every first Thursday of the month for Bike Night. Starts at 6 p.m. Have a great time with your family at Santa Maria Motorcycles.
We're happy to have a special guest here today at the Plumbing Talk Studios, Jeremy Griffin, owner of Griffin Plumbing in Orcutt. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Jeremy, the reason your plumbing company is called Griffin Plumbing is that your last name is in fact Griffin.
Yeah, that's right.
Unbelievable! Griffin, just like the legendary creature with the body of a lion and the wings of an eagle.
Yeah.
What a brilliant move, Jeremy.
I'm a genius.
To name your plumbing company after this majestic creature. A creature known not only to have divine power, but also to be a protector from all things evil.
Well, it is my last name.
Audience, listen carefully. If your plumbing devices are threatened in any way, I implore you to seek the power and protection of the Griffin.
We're always here to help. Just give us a call.
Call the Griffin.
Find us at callgriffinplumbing.com or call 934-1949.
You are on the firing line with Matt, Jim, and Joe today.
Be a part of today's show by calling in at 1-888-625-1440. Or if you're in the Santa Maria area, give us a call at 928-1440.
And of course, don't forget to check us out on Facebook on the firing line with Matt and Joe.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
That is the statement.
Yeah.
That is the right.
Shall not be infringed.
Shall not be infringed.
It's right there. It's 4 simple words.
And a well-regulated militia.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of the confusion comes from. What is a well-regulated militia? That's something that we should be talking about.
And we get to keep and bear arms. So who are they to say I can't open carry?
Right.
It says I can bear arms.
You know what? In colonial times, the term well-regulated meant functioning. For this was the meaning of those words at that time, as demonstrated by the following passage from the original 1789 charter of the University of North Carolina. Whereas in all well-regulated governments, it is the indispensable duty of every legislatures to consult the happiness of a rising generation. Moreover, the Oxford English Dictionary defines regulated, among other things, as properly disciplined. Mm-hmm. And it defines discipline, among other things, as a trained condition.
I like that. I like where that's going.
Privately kept firearms and training with them apart from formal militia mustering thus was encompassed by the Second Amendment in order to enable able-bodied citizens to be trained by being familiar in advance with the functioning of firearms. Mm-hmm. In that way, when organized, the militia would be able to function well when the need arose to muster and be deployed for sudden military emergencies. Therefore, even in the opening words of the amendment, a well-regulated militia somehow would be interpreted as strictly limiting the right of the people to keep arms. Nevertheless, a properly functioning militia fundamentally presupposes that the individual citizen be allowed to keep, practice, and train himself in the use of firearms. You got to remember, George Washington wanted this in there pretty badly because when he tried to raise an army, it took too much time for them to train the people to get them ready to fight the battle. Yep. If people had already been trained and were raised with firearms, then they would automatically, when they were mustered up to make that group of people to fight against the government, which is who they had to fight against, they would already be trained and ready. Yeah. You could say, okay, you guys, we need to do a flank maneuver. Get your guns. You know how to cycle them out and go through your malfunctions, go through your ammunition malfunctions and weapon malfunctions. Yep. And these guys would have known it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something they would have had to explain on the fly. It would have been, I mean, that's invaluable at that point. And
muscle memory would have already been down.
Right, yeah. And even in today, you know, I mean, yes, we have the right. I don't even though a lot of people own firearms, I don't necessarily think enough of them go to train to better themselves with it. You know, they might shoot a little bit, punch some holes in paper, and kind of, okay, I know how to shoot my gun, which is great and better than not knowing.
Sure, it puts them a step above the other person who doesn't even know how to take the magazine out of the gun.
Very true. But, you know, I know you and I are both of the thought, if you have it, then you should, you know, it's like the saying, either the tool or the weapon's the tool and you're the master, or the weapon's the master and you're the tool.
Right.
So that's the way it goes.
I am a tool. No, I'm not. Well, I'm God's tool, but hey, that's a whole nother story. A big story, too, as a matter of fact. All right, check this out. The fear of standing armies is one of the reasons why we had the militia in the statement within this, okay? Of all the powerful memories and emotions the Founding Fathers brought to the constitutional debates, apparently none was stronger than their fear of standing armies. Okay? Stop right there. Standing armies. Our country has gone in such a direction now that we have quite the standing army. And each state has its own standing army, which is the National Guard.
National Guard, yeah.
Okay.
Which a lot of times I think people that don't think about this so much, they don't realize that. They think that militias are something way of the past, and they think the National Guard is something that has nothing to do with, being a militia type group.
Right. Now, check it out. I don't think the National Guard really is a militia because it is funded by the federal government.
Yeah.
And when it's funded by the federal government, they take their orders and commands from the federal government. Yeah. Who do you think you're going to be fighting if you have to stand up against the government?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Unless those people defect over to our side, those are the people you're going to be fighting first.
Yeah, and a lot of those people are just average citizens too. I mean, a lot of them probably would defect if it came to something like that.
And remember this too, the forefathers, when they did this, well, we're going to get into this. The forefathers didn't want the standing army to be ruled by the government, because then if the government had a certain idealism, then those would be representation of the idealism and forced to make it happen.
You could use the force of the army to make whatever you want happen. We've seen it with dictatorships all over.
And that's exactly what they were trying to avoid. I mean, that's what started our whole Constitution in the first place, and the war against England.
That's a good point.
There's a whole lot to that. Here, look. The necessity of an armed populace, protection against disarming of the citizenry, and the need to guard against a select militia and ensure a real militia which could defend liberty against any standing forces the government might raise were topics interspersed throughout the ratification period. Yet, in the absence of a standing army, how is the nation to defend itself from external or internal aggression? The Founding Fathers understood this would be accomplished by a militia. But what kind of militia? That's the question here.
Yep.
Here's a typical anti-federalist view expressed by Richard Henry Lee, writing under the pseudonym The Federal Farmer, okay? A militia, when properly formed, are in fact the people themselves and render regular troops in great measure unnecessary. The powers to form and arm the militia, to appoint their officers, and to command their services are very important, nor ought they, in a confederated republic, be lodged solely in any one member of the government. First, the Constitution ought to secure a genuine and a guard against select militia by providing that the militia shall always be kept well organized, armed, and disciplined, and include, according to the past and the general usage of the states, all men capable of bearing arms, and that all regulations tending to render the general militia useless and defenseless by establishing select corps of militia or district bodies of military men, not having permanent interests and attachments in the community, to be avoided. To preserve liberty, it is essential that the whole body of the people always possess arms and be taught alike, especially when young, and how to use them. That's a huge statement right there.
Yeah.
That says so much right there that it's not even funny. I mean, Jim, you're a history buff. How do you read that?
Well, the only thing I don't like about it is it's too. He's saying that it's too, or should be real organized. You know what I'm saying?
Overly.
And then the government does come in. When it's like when it's running like a machine.
In today's world,
then they want to get involved.
Yeah, they're going to be threatened. So I agree with everything but that part. I mean, I think you should have people that are like, say, for instance, like you guys would be like the officers.
Right.
For instance, you should have commanders, and you should, it's not like a Boy Scout troop or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But, it should be just kind of like, okay, this is what's going on. Because if it gets too organized and too well done, then people start to flip out.
Yep.
And they get like, oh, well. But other than that, I really, really like this. And not only this, one of the things we don't realize in here is people don't read their history.
Right.
And if you don't read your history, you will repeat it. We've said this 100 times on this show.
Yeah.
Do you know the first thing Hitler did when he got into office?
Yeah.
de-armed the people.
De-arm
Right.
them, yeah.
And took their religion away from them. The
Right.
two things he did, he worked hard at that. That's how he could kill 11 million people.
Yep.
Right.
And even today, when an army takes land or they go into a country or whatever, once they take the country, the first thing that they do when they restore everything is also disarm the populace.
You have to.
Now-
if
now,
you're going to do
that-
that,
that's
your drug
standard-
lords do
think-
that.
think of
you
this,
know?
though.
Yeah, no, but that's standard.
Think of
protocol.
this, okay? I get what you're saying, but if the populace is the threat, because the populace is well organized, the populace being the citizens,
Right.
then the government stand in fear, which is why they'd
Yeah.
want to step in and
I
try to stop
understand that. I
it.
understand
But that's
that
what
whole
they wanted.
concept.
And we are the teeth to keep them in check by keeping them in fear.
I agree with that. I agree with the whole thing, but my only problem is letting them know it. That's what I'm saying. Kind of, I would like it like they didn't really,
Face first, let them know it.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I get what you're saying, though.
You know
And-
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the whole thing, when you start studying some parts of history, South American history is the hardest one to study. Do you know that? Because they don't really let you have a lot of their information. But if you look at the Chilean government, that's the way they work, man. They know everything about everybody. You were born here. You walk down the street, and basically, if you don't have the right stuff, that's what I'm saying. They can really control you if they know what's going on with you.
Their government.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's not. I mean, we don't know about a lot of governments, but that's the way they operate. That's their modus operandi. How does this little? I don't want
Right,
to say anything negative
but-
about the guy from Korea, except for he's an idiot. But how does he stay in power, man?
Yeah, fear.
He's got a touch on everybody.
He knows everything about everybody,
and they've
he-
indoctrinated.
Yeah, for years.
So the less they know, I mean, just to help you, that's all I'm saying. I
Okay,
mean,
yeah.
I like everything about this. I
Yep.
think, yeah, that's it. That's right. And that works. Do you know, they used to do that. The Romans used to do that. Did you know that?
Yeah.
They would have little groups of people, the Romans themselves would have groups of people that they could rely on when they were in a tough place. They go, okay, I think there's a group over here. They're doing something. Yeah, well, let's call them in. Let's call the men in is what they would do.
Right.
And they'd go get the men, and they'd show them how they fought. And then when something would come against the Roman Empire, they would have enough people to do it because they would allow that kind of stuff going on.
The Roman Empire was something very unique. A lot of people say that we have a lot of our ideas for America from the Roman Empire, but
Yeah.
I don't think they realized that during the Roman Empire, there was communism, there was socialism, there was democracy, there was little
It was
sects of everything
everything,
that
yeah.
made up the Roman Empire.
Yeah, who ruled the village,
They
basically.
were
Right.
still trying to figure out which one of them was better or which one worked.
Well, they liked the way they ruled, believe me, and they ruled with an iron fist.
With iron fist, yeah.
But they liked it. But they also liked the okay. Let the minions and peons down here do their own thing. We're not gonna bug them, until they start bugging us.
Right.
But we can rely on them when we need them. Kind of. a
That's
thing.
kind of the same way they did in Jerusalem.
Yeah. Well, that's how they killed Christ.
Right.
That's what happened.
All right, check this out. Regarding the freedom to keep and bear arms, a particular concern to the anti-federalist was that a central government would over time convert and model from the corpus of the general militia, traditionally meaning an able-bodied men between the ages of roughly 16 and 60, a select militia, men typically between the ages of 18 and 21, say who would receive more training and be better equipped than the rest of the people. It's kind of scary. As far as the Anti-Federalists were concerned, such a skilled and select militia would, for all practical purposes, be the same as the standing army that they so feared and detested. They were aware that in 1783, George Washington, and a year later, Baron von Steuben, the Prussian expatriate, who had served as Washington's Inspector General, had proposed a peace establishment, which at the time would have been the equivalent of a select militia, and that Alexander Hamilton, one of the leading Federalists, had advocated a select militia in the Federalist Papers, number 29. It is interesting to note, however, that Hamilton's proposal assumed that the general population would be armed. Assume that. Why would they assume that the general population would be armed?
Well, Hamilton just figured that was the way things should be, and the way that's all I can. The way things should be is that the population will be armed. So since they're armed, they can do this public militia.
Exactly. If you're going to go to a city, you're going to know they have gasoline in that city. It was that common.
Exactly.
They just
So
knew it.
our
didn't have to worry about
judges
it.
in our Supreme Court, they get to make decisions and get to try to determine whether or not it means all the people or the military or a militia.
Yeah.
have not done their homework, have not gone back and read what things mean, because it's pretty simple and clear how it was meant during that time period.
And again, when they said it in this time period, they weren't saying, "Oh, and this stops in 30 years from now." It's timeless.
This was not right.
Even though we're talking about
Timeless.
1783, we may as well be talking about 2014.
Exactly, it should be there then.
Yep.
And they knew that. They
had the foresight.
They had the
Heck yeah.
foresight. A lot of people don't understand. These guys weren't dumb.
Yeah. No.
Hey, they overthrew the biggest nation, the biggest army and naval
in the world.
In the world.
Yeah.
And they did it with people in churches and
Yeah.
schoolhouses and stuff.
They did it by throwing tea into a harbor.
It started it that way.
Check this out. It even goes on further. But if the people were to not maintain a standing army, whence would come their defense against armed aggression? It would come, the Anti-Federalists understood, through the existence in each state of a general militia in which every able-bodied man aged 16 to 60, keeping his own guns and ammunition, and that's why I brought this whole article in right there,
Yep.
and ammunition, and trained, which is a well-regulated or disciplined, in their use, could answer the call to muster in defense of life and property.
Right there.
It's so simple and clear, you guys. We all know it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, I mean, you know, in the military we have in America, it's all volunteer military, but I don't know, I'm getting off topic here, but it seems like it's very close to each other. The way that he's wording this is, you know, especially with the younger guys getting trained up and, you know, all that stuff.
There was an expectation that every American,
Yeah, I guess that's
every
right.
American
There you
were
go.
to take the responsibility of being an American. That doesn't mean you get to float through your life going to work and taking care of your family alone. You also had to stand up and protect that right
Yeah.
and
Right.
protect the ability to do
Right.
that.
Yep.
And in order to do that, even today, the times have not changed because we're losing those rights because people are becoming so complacent and so spoiled with what
Spoiled.
they have that they have no respect for where we came from, for what it means to have what we have, and for the strife that went through to get to where we have. Now the distinction between us and Europe is so similar
Yeah.
that
Well,
we've
like
lost something.
Well, I keep saying, you know, like I keep saying this, and I'll say it and say it and say it and say it until people really get it. A lie will go around the world before the truth will get its boots on.
Right.
That's just the
Every
way they
time.
want to believe a lie so badly. It's crazy. Like this Blasio character that's now the mayor of New York. He had a man get on there and call in his speech, his inaugural speech, this is what we stand for. He gets a man on there, and this man calls the city of New York a plantation. Like it's a slave thing. How could somebody get that bad? How could somebody lie like that so badly and say this is the truth? But this is what's going on now.
But they have a
People-
perception of things.
Yeah, their
Right.
perception is so
Gotta
askew
stop
that this
that.
is how they roll.
And how are they indoctrinated to get these perceptions? We have to
Yeah.
really clean up our schools and our colleges.
Yeah.
We need to
Oh,
get our
yeah.
children back on track because they're going to be the future of us, and it's up to us to save the country so they have a future.
But you know, like you said, though, you know, they're just getting lazy.
Yeah.
That's just basically like
Spoiled.
Yeah, like he
Yeah,
was saying,
spoiled,
he's just
yeah.
getting lazy and spoiled. They're just somebody else will do it. I'm paying my taxes. I'm doing this, but they're not standing up for their own rights. How do you think the people's speech rights now have been circumvented?
Why do you think people call the police?
Yeah, not in Detroit. They don't.
Good point right there. Yeah. Why do they have to call the police? You know.
Why can't I protect myself?
Yeah.
Why are a group of people telling me now that I cannot protect myself, and I have to call an entity that cannot protect me but expect them to protect
But
me?
Especially in Detroit.
You said that well. That
All
was
right.
that was pretty heavy. So Joe's dropping truth bombs on us
Yeah,
now.
darts and bombs all the way. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with you, and we're going to go back into this. The Second Amendment is something strong for all of us, and we need to discuss it.
Heck
Be
yeah.
right back with you on the firing line.
You're listening to On the Firing Line on the Information Station.
This is On the Firing Line with Matt, Jim, and Joe. We'll be right back with you on the firing line. If you have any questions, give us a call at 888-625-1440 or in the Santa Maria area, 928-1440. Don't forget, you can always listen in on AM1440.com.
Tactical Guns and Gear is the Central Coast leader in tactical rifles, pistols, shotguns, and accessories. Building an AR-15, they have lower receivers, parts kits, trigger groups, and a ton of other AR parts from the most popular companies and stuff.
They are also the home of the Women's 101 Firearms and Women's Advanced Pistol classes and have trained thousands of local ladies.
The store is located off the 101 freeway in Santa Maria near the North Broadway exit. Look for the big rifle sign on the freeway as well as the giant 5-ton Tactical military truck, and they're now open on Mondays. America!
On the Firing Line is happy to have Law Offices of Christopher Coleman as a sponsor. The Law Offices of Christopher Coleman is located in Santa Barbara on 2019B State Street, specializing in personal injury and, more importantly, the Second Amendment and On the Firing Line with Matt and Joe. Give them a call at 805-682-3352, serving the Santa Barbara, Santa Maria, and San Luis Obispo areas for over 25 years.
On the air with the Midnight Mystic is one of our regular callers, truck driver Charlie.
Well, I just seen another one, Midnight Mystic.
Another Griffin, Charlie?
I'm telling you, they're all over the Central Coast now.
How long have you been on the road now, Charlie?
2, 5, 8 weeks, I don't know.
Perhaps you should park the truck and get some sleep, and maybe the Griffins will disappear.
Well, there it is again. I'm going after it.
What does it look like, Charlie?
Holy mackerel. It's got the body of a lion and the head of an eagle.
Is it flying, Charlie?
It's on the side of a white truck.
Is it a Griffin plumbing truck, Charlie?
Could be. I don't know. I'm pulling right up to it.
We seem to have lost contact with Charlie, but I'm sure he'll be okay because Griffins, just like the good folks at Griffin Plumbing, are here to protect and serve. In fact, if your plumbing devices are threatened in any way,
Call the Griffin.
Find us at callgriffinplumbing.com or call 934-1949.
You are on the Firing Line with Matt, Jim, and Joe. Be a part of today's show by calling in at 1-888-625-1440, or if you're in the local Santa Maria area, please give us a call at 928-1440. That's right. You are on the Firing Line with Matt and Joe and Jim. And we're getting into it. We got some pretty good stuff today. At least, we're getting into it here. We hope that you guys are as interested as we are. If you want to give us a call, feel free to light us up. 1-888-625-1440, Santa Maria area, 928-1440. Let's get back into it.
Okay, well, we've been seriously giving some thought here to what our Second Amendment means. We've been trying to break down some of the actual words in the statement and try to grasp the
exactly what they were trying to
the
get
definition,
across.
the severity, the strength, the thought of what was coming out during that time period. And I'm sure that those of you out there that are listening can definitely relate to today's time period and see exactly what our government was trying to set us up to be able to stop if we ever had to. I am by no means saying go grab your gun and start a new revolution.
Absolutely not.
What I'm saying is be careful. You have right now you have the time period to be able to vote. If you're Democrat, think about the Democrat that you're voting for. You can get rid of De Leon and put a different Democrat in there with different ideals. You can do that if you want to. Yeah. If you're Republican, does your Republican senator stand up for what you believe, and does he do the things that is supposed to be done by Americans?
Don't just vote for your party is what we're saying.
Right.
Dig a little bit deeper and vote for the best, what's best for you. That's what the whole reason of having votes are for.
And if you have to stick to your party line, find the true man in the party line.
Yes.
Find somebody who represents what it is to be American.
Yep.
No, don't take America down. Don't let America fall to the fathoms of darkness to where we can never stand back up again without the bloody fight. We don't need to get to that point. But I'll tell you, day after day, and talking to different veterans from different wars, I have never in my whole life ever heard so many men say, we're almost at that moment.
Yeah, that's a good point, because you can talk to people from all walks of life, and that's or different walks of life that have had similar experiences, and that they all kind of get there. It's like, well, we're kind of rounding that base right now.
Here we have De Leon, and we have these people that are trying to take away ammunition, or maybe not take it away, but make it so hard for people to get it, or make you have to jump through hoops to get it.
Yeah.
And darn well they've already tried to limit the amount. And it was just like Jim said to the person the other day, what do you need 15 rounds for? Yeah. Well, after I've shot my 15 rounds at the range, what do I have left to protect myself with?
Exactly.
Until I get back to the store, that now I got to bring my driver's license, tell them the last time I bought ammunition, and get my 15 rounds again.
But if they tell you, sorry, sir, you've met your allotment for the month.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do then?
Go back to
Right.
slingshots, huh?
Right.
These
There-
Democrats.
No, that's it.
That's
That's it. You know what I'm saying? They're telling you it doesn't matter. That's
Yeah.
not right. You know, one of the
Nah.
things I don't understand, how did it get turned around like that? No, that's all you get. And you say, well, I went down to get more, but now I got my allotment, now I can't. No, why are they saying that to us?
Because some elitists got in our government and decided they were the ones that get to decide who does what and who can have what.
But that came out of you like nothing. That came out of you like, this is what's happening. It's not like, well, guess what, if this would happen. I thought when you said that, man, this is probably really happening. People are probably really believing this should happen.
There are people that really do.
That's what I'm saying. That's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, we were just talking about freedom of speech, right? And obviously, you don't want to say bad things about people, but some guys do. I mean, some guys like
some
to
guys
say bad
deserve
things.
it.
That's the point. If you have freedom of speech, you can say it. There's no hate crime in what you say, because the people that don't like it can treat you and say things right back to you.
Yeah.
And you can be an idiot, a bigoted,
Whatever,
dumb, whatever. And guess what? We'll know who you are.
Yeah, that's what it used to be like.
Exactly.
That's what it used to be like. And I said, men aren't men anymore. It seems like I watch a lot of old time movies and where men were men like that. You said something stupid, somebody punched you in the face. And that guy didn't get arrested for assault and battery.
Right.
That's what
You
happened.
try to rob somebody's house, you get shot.
That's right. You went into
Common
some-
sense.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's just we've gone to this level of weirdness now.
Yeah,
we got man
pacification.
caves instead of real men. Men, get in your cave, watch your football games, drink beer.
Little Bo Weevil.
Nice. Little boom.
Nothing against man caves. If you got man cave, that's up to you. But I'm just saying that's not what life is
But
really
make sure
about.
you're a man before you get in that cave. Otherwise, I'm going to ask
Yeah.
for your man card. You're going to have to prove it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Don't let your wife build you a man cave.
Oh my God, that's funny because I carry a man purse.
Yeah.
But you know what my man purse
Me
has in
too.
it?
Cool stuff.
Loaded firearms. Yeah.
Don't say that too loud.
Oh, sorry.
Somebody will come and do something to you.
It's a purse snatcher.
Yeah. Somebody will rip
Hey,
you
let's
off.
not be snatching my purse. It's connected to the arm.
But we got off on a tangent, but it's true, man. We got to really realize that people are really taking rights away from not only gun owners, but now the ammunition. They don't not only want your gun, they want to make sure you don't have the ammunition.
And if they can't get it done one way, they'll change the parameter, they'll change the meaning of words, and go at it from another
Right.
angle.
It reminds me of last year how after Sandy Hook happened, everybody was focused on the tragedy of it, and then they brought in the whole assault weapons ban thing kind of through the back door. This now they saw that assault weapons ban didn't work, so now they're bringing the ammunition into the back door. When this doesn't work, what are they going to bring in next? They already banned our magazine.
You make a good point. Here's the thing. In this case with the bans, people forgot about it. It was something big at the moment. Media's helped make it big.
Right.
And people got complacent and spoiled, went back to doing what they normally do, and it got kind of left to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Or, hopefully in our favor, nobody really wanted it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
think of this.
That would be good.
When we were attacked, you went through the signs underneath freeways and you saw all these things posted up on the overpasses
Right,
and
yeah.
freeways.
We will never forget.
How many people see those signs anymore?
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
see a whole lot of yellow ribbons tied up today, do you?
How much do the people of our society take place and interact with our government besides just a vote based off of what
Besides a vote and
politicians
taxes?
lie and what media says?
Yeah.
Or media
Well, I
lies.
told you what media did.
Yeah, with Christie.
With Christie and the IRS, which is really an important subject.
Oh,
I mean, you're
that's
literally
like-
destroying people's lives and don't care about you. And it was totally political. Totally political.
Of course.
And this guy just stops traffic and, causes some problems.
Which was
Christie
totally
didn't even do
political.
it.
Right.
Right. That's
But yet it's
same
being
thing.
blown
Political.
so far out. And
Right.
but there's a reason for that,
16 times more publicity.
which is unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. And
Benghazi.
controversy.
there's another
says-
one.
Yeah.
There's another one. We'll never find out the truth of that one.
Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious.
Oh my God!
The list goes on.
Whatever.
Did you hear about Gates? Gates has written a book, and they're all up in arms because they're afraid that he's leaking secrets that he's supposedly said. You know, there were
Not
things.
Daryl Gates, but this is he was part
of the president's.
Right.
I forget his first name.
We'll just say the part of the president's entourage.
No. He was the Secretary of Defense. He was part of the defense team.
There were things that they say that there are things that were said in front of the or around the president had said with him and stuff like that was supposed to be in secret. And I've heard people say, well, you know, Gates took an oath to uphold the Constitution, not protect the president.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
So he should be able to write his book and say things.
That's because they didn't like what he said.
Well,
Secret Service is right jumping down him.
You know, it's amazing.
Freedom of speech, baby.
Freedom of speech, yeah. But
live with it or die
I'm
with
going to come back next week, and I'm going to go on with this because
I think we should.
There's the real controversy between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, and then along in this article, and you can always go on Facebook and read this. I've got the whole thing up there.
Yep.
I like the next one, which is the right of self-protection, and it kind of goes through then to today with ideas and reasoning behind this, with what our forefathers thought about and stuff like that. You've got to go on Facebook on our page, like our page, and read this thing. I would love to see at least 100 hits on the page.
Yes.
Just, you know, and that's not asking much. No, there's 100,000 people. We know there's at least 20,000 listening right now. Go on there, Facebook. You don't even have to be a part of Facebook to read it. You can go on Google and type in.
Yeah, we have the site open, so you literally can just type in Facebook on the firing line with Matt and Joe, or with Joe and Matt. I forget which way we have it.
Just on the firing line, it's going to give it to you.
On the firing line.
Google on the firing line, you're going to find it.
Yeah, you'll find us. And, you know, Joe posts up this stuff every day before the show, or every Saturday or Friday. And so it's on there, and I honestly think it would be interesting for you guys to read it, and it would just give you that much more stuff to think about when you do listen to the show.
What if they decided that iPads were bad for you?
They probably have.
Well, I mean, really decided, no, we got to start taking iPads away.
They should. They are.
But you know what?
Let's get rid of cell phones.
Well, no,
cell phones,
then you would get people angry.
Right.
You know, you
What's
take
it gonna
away
take?
People with beards.
Yeah, you take away something, you know, like cell phones or iPads, that's going to get people upset. You know, you take away little conveniences, that's going to...
I think we should go out and buy, on the train tracks, those big train trailers that haul cars and reconstruct them inside to carry people and get camps, you know, so we can take people off the camps and re-educate
you know what? There's
them.
people who believe that that's happening right now.
Yeah,
yes,
I hear
exactly
it works.
true.
Oh,
you heard it work?
FEMA.
Yeah, FEMA, right, exactly. FEMA.
You know, if there is any truth to that, there's going to be a hell of a battle.
I remember what a guy told me one time. You know those contrails up there?
Oh God,
that's the military leaving vapors, and it's making us.
I was told that the contrails were there to keep the sky blue. They're like, oh yeah, that's what they do in California, so the sky stays blue, so people come to California. But as you can see, the tinfoil hat
they
never
do
stopped.
seed, and they have seeded the clouds for a long time.
Yeah, but that's
true.
a different type of seeding. That's not.
And did you? Hey, you know, I heard something else very interesting. The military has the power to be able to destroy tectonic plates.
Holy
and cause earthquakes.
Yeah, it's called nuclear.
Yes. Unbelievable.
But when you destroy a tectonic plate, you destroy everything.
Yeah,
on
right.
It.
You're just yourself involved.
Well,
you know?
I mean, they create earthquakes. Maybe
power,
I didn't use correct terminology here, but
Austin Powers, what?
I have power to destroy world.
Isn't that Austin Powers?
We will shall destroy the whole world.
Magma and whatever.
This is weird. When I was in junior high, just a quick nothing story. A kid that I was in school with, his uncle, I believe, was in the Navy, and he always used to brag to me, my uncle has a submarine that has enough missiles that can blow up the world 17 times. I must have heard that 17 times when I was a kid. And I was like, why would you need to blow up the world 17 times?
Yeah. How do you blow it up a second time after you blow it up the first time?
The first one's usually substantially enough when you blow something up. But, you know, just goes to say, show you guys, you know, how the way of thinking people think nowadays is so askew. Our forefathers set up a pretty good guideline a couple hundred years for us, and we have, fallen off that path drastically. I think if we can kind of, as a whole, as a country, as a nation, get back on that path, things will probably start turning in a little bit better. it's not going to be a utopia, of course.
Amen.
But it's going to probably, I think it could get better. Absolutely.
Who truly would want a utopia?
Right. I mean,
how could you enjoy life if it was a perfect utopia?
I mean, I don't even like spending 8 hours at Disneyland. I don't want a whole utopia life, I mean, come on.
I agree. Disneyland can only be so much fun.
Yep. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. This is all stuff that's very near and dear to Joe and I. So next week, if you want to tune in, we'll probably have some more of the same type of topics going on.
Ooh, Kanani and the back shows.
And yes, and on our Facebook page, we do have a bunch of shows that we've done previously that are now on our Facebook page. So if you want to go on and listen to them and get some things we've said in the past, go ahead and check those out. And we would also like to thank you, Kanani, for helping us out.
Yeah, you're a superwoman all the way.
All right, you guys, have an excellent weekend, and we will see you next week on The Firing Line.